We're getting close to the finale in the Traitors' castle, being only 2 banishments away from the final fire ceremony where the final 4 players will determine each other's fate. Last night, Gianna was the first traitor banished from the castle, giving the remaining faithful hope that they can still win this game. However, what they do not know is that Theo and Brandon were a huge push for Gianna to go, and they themselves are traitors. Despite Krista being on the outs within the castle, she had a say in last night's murder, either siding with Brandon to murder Holly, or siding with Theo to murder Mari. Inside the breakfast room, Clara walks in first, relieved to be alive at this stage of the game. She sits down and stares at the wall blankly, trying to figure out who the remaining traitors are. In confessional, Clara admits she's feeling a range of emotions right now. She's happy a traitor was caught last night, but she's confused by how that even happened in the first place. She herself can't be a traitor, so someone who voted Gianna must be a traitor as well. Logically, that person would have to be Theo. This is especially backed up if Krista is also a traitor. At that point, it would be obvious that Gianna and Krista were 2 traitors trying to betray their fellow traitor, Theo. Today might be the only day she can get the other faithful on side to believe that Theo is a traitor trying to blend in with the faithful. Back in the room, Russell enters, saying good morning to Clara. She says good morning back, and Russell has a seat next to her. Russell tells Clara that this is one of their best mornings ever, and Clara agrees. However, she doesn't feel comfortable yet because they only found 1 traitor out of 3 possible traitors. Maybe even 4. Russell feels like there has to be a traitor who secretly voted with the majority. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense based on the remaining numbers in the castle. Clara then brings up that she thinks Gianna and Krista are 2 traitors who tried to flip on their traitor ally, Theo. By doing so, they would easily make it to the end with those who believed them. This basically means Theo and Krista are the remaining 2 traitors, but she's just worried that Holly, Mari, and Brandon will continue to trust Theo. In confessional, Russell says that he knows for a fact that Krista is a traitor. Seeing how she and Gianna worked so closely together in this game backs that assumption. Clara on the other hand might also be a traitor based on last night's vote, but to her defense, she constantly told people she trusted Gianna. Maybe she's actually a faithful and perhaps Theo has been playing him and Holly this whole time. Back in the room, Theo walks in next, and both Clara and Russell smile, congratulating him for clocking Gianna last night. Theo sits down and says that he's just glad he was alive in this game when the faithful got their first traitor down. Gianna played really well, and it's no surprise they couldn't find traitors earlier in the game. Clara tells Theo that her and Russell both agreed Krista was another traitor. She's really good at flying under the radar, and that's basically what she did until this point. In confessional, Theo says that he feels really good about this endgame. Everyone except for Krista trusts him, which is why he'll be ensuring Krista is banished tonight. The ideal boot order for him is Krista, then Clara, and then take Holly and Russell to final 3 so he can win the prize money for himself. It'll be easy to convince them that Brandon is a traitor at final 4 since they will see Clara was faithful all along. Hopefully, Krista doesn't screw any of this up because she's the only one who can pull off a fast one on him. Back inside, Holly comes into the room next, and she tells everyone how glad she is that Gianna was caught last night. Russell tells her that Gianna played one of the best traitor games he has ever seen, and Holly says there's no doubt of that being true. She played almost flawlessly thanks to her social game. In confessional, Holly feels great sitting at the breakfast room at Final 6. This journey was super rough, but last night boosted her spirits. She's ready to catch these last few traitors, and she's looking at Krista as a very likely banishment target right now. At this point, she can't trust anyone, but she at least knows that Theo and Russell are faithful. Everyone else is a suspect. Back inside, Clara says that it's down to Mari, Krista, and Brandon. Russell laughs and says it's basically down to Mari and Brandon since there's no shot Krista isn't a traitor. After he says that, Krista indeed walks in next, sitting down next to Theo and telling him that she's super glad to be alive right now. Theo awkwardly laughs back at her, and in Krista's confessional, she feels like today is her last day in this game. Practically everyone wants her out, including Theo and Brandon. At this point, she'll just have to hope for a miracle. She's a fighter, so she'll work her social game and try getting Clara and Holly on her side. She decided to murder Mari last night because Mari has been against her for a few days now. By removing her, she can keep Holly around as a possible swing vote at tonight's banishment. Tonight, she needs to take a final shot at Theo and hope it lands. Back in the room, Krista asks everyone if anyone knows where the shield is at, but nobody has a clue. Holly says that she thinks Brandon was murdered because he has been a very helpful faithful all this time. As she says that, Brandon walks in, completely shocking Holly as she never thought Mari would be murdered. Russell admits he's also stunned as he thought Mari was a dark horse traitor all this time. Brandon sits down and says he feels really bad for Mari. She constantly got accused, though she was faithful all this time. Holly curses out loud, feeling really bad about all the things she said about Mari this season, thinking she was a traitor this whole time. In a flashback, Mari sits in the confessional room, finding out she was the latest murder victim. She sighs and says that there wasn't much she could do anymore. The traitors probably had limited options to choose from, so they ended up going with her as she had the least ties with them. She feels like Brandon and Holly are confirmed faithful, leaving Krista, Clara, Theo, and Russell as possible traitors. If she would have managed to survive this latest murder, she would have definitely targeted Krista and Theo because to her, they seem the most obvious as traitors. The players are now allowed to roam the castle after finding out about Mari's death, and outside, Theo chats with Holly alone. He asks her if she has any thoughts about the rest of the cast remaining, and Holly says she obviously thinks Krista is a traitor. As for who the other may second be, she thinks it's Clara and Russell. There's still something about Russell that doesn't feel right. Theo says he's remaining open-minded in this endgame, but all he can say right now is that he trusts her, and only her. He saw how genuine her emotions have been this whole season, so he's putting all the trust he can into her right now. In Theo's confessional, he says that he feels even better with Holly than before. She clearly trusts him, especially over Russell, who he thought would be an issue in this endgame. It's mainly because Russell and Holly are friends, but their relationship has started to sour recently. As long as this continues, this can confirm that Holly will likely flip on Russell rather than himself. Meanwhile, Russell chats with Brandon, telling him he trusts him, Theo, and Holly the most. He feels like the last two traitors are Krista and Clara at this point. Brandon thinks the same, and in confessional, Brandon confirms that he can't throw shade towards Theo just yet. If he does, Russell might leak this information to Theo, causing them to go to a traitor showdown. He would rather snipe Theo out of the game at Final 3 when he least expects it, so he'll need someone like Russell to side with him over Theo. Back with the guys, Russell says that Krista is very clearly going tonight. There's no way she's staying. Brandon agrees, and says that after tonight, Clara might be their next best vote, unless of course, he thinks someone else is a traitor instead. Russell thinks it's too soon to know for sure, but he's keeping his eyes peeled for Theo because it's still very possible he's a traitor. Later on, Clara talks with Holly, asking her about her thoughts on who the traitors are. Holly says she only knows Krista as one. There obviously has to be another one, so Clara suggests Theo's name because he was hard accused by Gianna and Krista these last 2 rounds. Perhaps it was traitor on traitor battling during the roundtables. In confessional, Holly says that she's finding it very difficult to trust what people tell her, but she for whatever reason feels comfortable with Theo. He had more one-on-one chats with her than Russell. Russell seems less game-focused with her, potentially hinting that he's a traitor who doesn't want to hurt her feelings. Quite honestly, she'd rather believe Russell is a traitor over Clara. At least Clara has been more consistent with her thoughts in the game. Back with the two, Holly says that she's still afraid that Brandon is some mastermind traitor, so she's not going to let him control her, just in case he is one. Clara tells Holly that it's smart for her to make her own decisions. No faithful should let anyone else influence their true feelings this late into the game. In confessional, Clara says that she's really hoping Holly can open her eyes when it comes to Theo. She can't push Theo's name too much, or else Holly will distrust her. She just needs to hope Holly comes to the realization that her close ally might actually be playing her. Outside on the terrace, Krista has a quick one-on-one chat with Theo, and in her confessional, Krista claims that she needs to get Theo on her side for tonight's banishment. Although they don't trust each other, she has no other choice but to try kicking Brandon out of this game. The only way she can do that is use Theo and his solid relationships in the castle with the other faithful to get Brandon out tonight. Krista then tells Theo that she really needs his help. She can't play this game solo, so he has to believe her when she says that she would like to work with him in this endgame. Theo then asks her if she has a game plan for tonight, considering she's on the chopping block. Krista tells him that she feels like she can win over Clara and Holly, so if he also sides with them, that's a 4-person majority. She would like to target Brandon tonight because that would get out an unsuspecting traitor. It would confuse the faithful even more and let the two of them skate by to the final 2, if that's what he'd like, of course. Theo says he's obviously taking their past into consideration, but he's not turning away from this game plan. In confessional, Theo says that Krista could be onto something. Brandon is definitely a threat to his endgame here, so if he can somehow snipe Brandon out of the game now, that'll definitely lock in Holly and Krista for this endgame. It would make Russell look more suspicious to Holly since he isn't voting Brandon tonight. Then, that would leave himself, Holly, Clara, and Krista in the final 4, and from there, Holly will definitely side with him no matter what. It's something to think about, but he has to be very careful around Krista because she is a snake who is ready to bite at any time. With the castle only having 6 players remaining, there will not be any more faithful crown ceremonies, meaning we will be heading straight to the next banishment. All 6 remaining players arrive to the banishment room, finding out that they will all have a vote tonight. They also find out there will not be any more murders from here on out, so the faithful have a few more shots to get all the traitors out. With that, the discussion may now begin, so Krista begins, telling everyone she knows she's the odd one out tonight. Everyone thinks she's a traitor based on last night's banishment result. She claimed that Brandon lied during a conversation they had with Gianna about voting out Theo. She still stands by that claim, so tonight, she will be voting for him. She would like everyone else to consider voting him as well because he's playing all of them. Brandon then talks next, smiling as he tells Krista that he'll use a line that her and Gianna used against him, but this time against her, and that's the fact that she's grasping at straws right now to get rid of him. It's very clear that she's a traitor, so tonight's vote should be simple. Clara says that she's not going to leave this discussion without giving out some of her own thoughts, and these thoughts aren't just related to Krista. Sure, Krista could very well be a traitor, but she's much more concerned about Theo. Last night felt like a traitor war between Gianna and Theo. Krista could also be part of it, siding with Gianna of course. However, she's more concerned about Theo because there are some people in here who still trust him. It doesn't make sense why Gianna would gun for Theo twice in a row, especially claiming that Brandon lied about a conversation about targeting Theo. To her, it's very possible the traitors are a mix of Krista, Brandon, and Theo, and for tonight, she'd like to vote out Theo because he seems like the kingpin of the castle. Theo thanks Clara for calling him a kingpin, and he admits he is one. He doesn't mind admitting that. However, he got that status because he proved himself as a faithful time and time again. Yesterday wasn't a traitor-on-traitor war. It was 2 traitors who feared him and who tried to take him out. It also could be 3 traitors who went after him, since Clara is also on his suspect list right now. It's especially evident because she's still pushing for his name. Clara then says that she's aware what game plan he has in mind. He has these good relationships with Holly, Brandon, and Russell, and he's using them to single out herself and Krista. Again, she doesn't trust Krista, but she also doesn't trust him, and she'd like Russell, Holly, and Brandon to think twice before trusting him. Holly then speaks up, claiming that she never wanted to question Theo anymore, but she also doesn't want to look like an idiot. She turns to Theo, asking him if he's truly faithful, and Theo says he is. He tells Holly that she knows him very well after the last 11 days in the game, so she should trust him and listen to her gut. She shouldn't listen to the people trying to go after him. They literally got rid of one of those people, Gianna. It should be very clear that the traitors are threatened by him, and that's because he has the faithful rallied up on his side. That's why he is being called a kingpin tonight. Clara and Krista are scared of him. Clara tells Holly, Russell, and Brandon not to listen to Theo. If Theo votes Krista tonight and she ends up a traitor, it's clear he's doing that on purpose to gain even more trust with them. She then dares Theo to vote for her tonight. Theo tells Clara he has no reason to listen to her because he will only listen to his own wants. Clara shakes her head and says that it's so obvious what he's doing, and she doesn't understand why the other three don't see what his strategy is. Brandon tells Clara that he understands why she is frustrated, but the fact of the matter is that they all agreed to vote Krista tonight. There really isn't a reason for anyone to vote anyone else. Holly stares at Theo, unsure what to believe now. In confessional, Holly says that she's finding it really difficult to know what the best move is tonight. Is Theo actually playing her? Why is Clara still gunning for Theo? Back in the room, the players are then told that it's time to vote, so they all write down a name on their slates. Once finished, Russell is asked to show his vote first, so he flips his slate, revealing Krista's name on it. He tells Krista that she played a really good traitor game up until last night, so she should be proud of herself. Krista then goes next, and she says she's voting someone who is playing everyone in here. Like Clara said, Theo is the kingpin, and not a kingpin faithful. Instead, he's manipulating other faithful into trusting him. She voted for Theo as a result. We're now at 1 vote Krista, and 1 vote Theo. Brandon is next, and he shows his vote for Krista. He says there's no reason to vote anyone else tonight. Everyone knew the game plan going into tonight, so that's all he has to say. Holly is next, and she says that she can't keep traitors around, even if they are very obvious. They will always be a number for their own traitor team, so for that, she has to vote Krista out to ensure the faithful have more numbers going into the final stages. We're now at 3 votes for Krista, and 1 vote Theo. Theo goes next, showing his vote for Krista. He tells her and Clara that to him, the both of them are traitors, and they failed at taking him out as a very influential faithful. The traitors clearly stuck together all season, so there was no reason for them to flip on each other, and everyone saw that Krista, Gianna, and Clara stuck together majority of the season. Clara is then asked to show her vote last, and she says that she's just going with the most obvious traitor of the bunch. She shows her vote for Krista, telling her that it's just a game and she has to be a team player as a fellow faithful. With that, Krista received 5 votes, and she has been banished from the castle. She's asked to head to the front, so she makes her way there. Holly stares down Theo, and he stares back, giving her a nod. Krista stands at the front, telling everyone that she firstly wants to share that she has been honest about her real life. She really is a mother, and she's damn proud that she made it this far. Going into this game, she was cool getting either role because she just wanted to play this game. And thankfully, she did play this game, and she played it well. She ends off her speech by telling the faithful that they are screwed, and she reveals that she's a traitor. Everyone immediately expresses happiness, and Brandon calls Krista a legend. Krista then heads out of the room, and Holly tells everyone that they did a good job sticking together. Even Clara. Clara says she never thought Krista was faithful, but she hopes people open their eyes and realize that Theo could very well be a traitor still. They have at least one more traitor here, so they need to keep that in mind when entering these final voting stages. In Holly's confessional, she points out Krista's last part of her speech, which was that the faithful were going to lose. She's unsure what it truly means, but perhaps it's a warning that the true faithful are looking the wrong direction. The other possibility is that she's just saying that to protect her traitor partner, and if that's so, Clara would be that partner as she always tried backing Krista in this game. At least the faithful knocked down a total of 2 traitors, so they only need to get one more. Hopefully just one. In Theo's confessional, he says that he has this game in the bag. Sure, overconfidence might kill him, but he can't see a scenario where he gets voted out. Clara has more suspicion than him. Russell has more suspicion than him. Brandon doesn't even want to vote him out. Neither does Holly. Literally nobody can take him out. Little Clara can try all she wants tomorrow, but she'll be next.